I'm Marcus Riedner, and you're on Happiness by the Acre. This is the small farm that my family run. I work here with my wife Sarah and my sons Bo and Samuel. We're a mixed farm, and we do mostly cattle-based and livestock-based operations. We practice like high-intensity rotational grazing with our cattle, and we do pastured poultry, pastured eggs, and you might hear in the background our free-roaming ducks. We let them out, and then they kind of roam around the farm. Yeah. So we got into farming from the tech sector. We're not farmers by trade or by family, and we got into it because we have a deep concern about climate change and the environment. And we also have, we're Christians, and we have a stewardship ethic based in creation care. And so between the two of those things, we kind of sort of moved from tech sector into urban farming, and then from urban farming into a full rural farm. And so we've been here on this. We bought this property 11 years ago in September, and when we bought it, it was grain land. It was in a grain and canola rotation, occasionally with peas, and bare land, no fences, nothing. And we've put everything in from there. And we've been here on the property doing livestock and working more intensely with the land for this is year 6, I believe Sarah said. So 6 years ago, the barn was not here. Nothing was here. There was none of this was here. So that the farmhouse house is at year 4. It's 4 years old, I think. So yeah, it's been very fast and pretty quick, pretty crazy. We're nuts. I don't recommend people do it this fast. It's pretty intense. What we do here is called MIG, MOB, HM. Like there's a whole bunch of different terms for it, but basically we're highly managing our grass. So our focus as a farm is on grass production and forage production. That's what I am. I'm technically a pasture farmer. And then we use chickens or pigs or cows or whatever animal to harvest the grass into a sellable something. So meat or dairy or eggs, whatever it is that we're looking for. Our focus here is pasture-based animal proteins. So I chase the cows. We give them a day's worth of grass, and then we move them every day. Sometimes we leave them for a little longer, depending on how many we have and what the grass is like. But largely we're moving them daily. And then we sweep them across the farm, and then we just keep doing rotations through the farm. And we move their water trough with them, their mineral, all that stuff moves as they move. And it's sort of designed around emulating the way herds would have moved under predator pressure. So if you had a million bison here in Alberta at one point or more, they would move to fresh grass all the time because predators would be coming and pushing the herds to move on the regular. And they're moving always to fresh grass as they leave the area where they've defecated and slept and stuff. And so they move through the ecosystem. And so we just emulate that on a small scale with a limited number of cattle. The reality is we don't have millions of unbroken acres anymore, so we have to kind of emulate it on a smaller scale. So and the entire purpose is to try and manage an ecosystem as best we can and try and drive fertility, soil health, and just really healthy ecosystem. Soils so I said maybe I'm a grass farmer, but I'd probably say I'm also a soil farmer. Soil is pretty important to us. When we took over the land, our soil organic matter, most people know that that's kind of like your baseline metric for how healthy your soil is. We were at 0.5% in the first 6 inches and then 0, all the way down. So we had topsoil about 4 to 6 inches with very little organic matter. All the crops that were grown here were largely propped up on chemical inputs. And we switched back into pasture and started this grazing program that we do. And that's my wife, Sarah. And in 5 years, we went from an average of 0.5% at 6 inches to 7% across the farm in 5 years. We now have pockets at 10% in the top 6 inches. My original goal when we took over the farm was to get to 5% in 20 years. We did that in 5, and now my goal is to start pushing that organic matter deeper and deeper into the soil. So we've partnered with a number of other organizations doing studies on this type of grazing and on soil in the Alberta area. So we now have data from soil samples that go 3 feet deep. And they're measured at 15 centimeter increments, so 6 inches. Sorry, I switch between metric and imperial fluidly. And so what we're trying to build is a really good understanding of how fast we can push that organic matter down. And the reasoning behind that is organic matter is about 58% carbon. And so what we're trying to do is build a proof case and a prototype on an agricultural practice that does a carbon drawdown and sequesters carbon out of the atmosphere. And what we're finding is that we're pulling carbon really, really fast in the top 12 inches. And now we're trying to figure out how deep and how fast we can push it down. So it's pretty amazing. And what's happened is, like, because we've got so much more organic matter, drought proofing, cold proofing, wind proofing, water retention, flood proofing, all that is happening. So, like, I don't know, in late June, we had a rain event. We had 5 inches of rainfall here in 3-4 days. One day we had 80 millimeters fall in a day, which is, for those who don't know Alberta, that's a 1 in 100 year rainfall event. That almost never happens here. No runoff. We didn't have any runoff. My dugouts didn't go up at all. I need them to go up. They're super low because we've been super dry for 4 or 5 years here. But we've got so much organic matter in the soil, it just sucks down the water, and then that is available for the grass to really burst and grow. And so we're finding that we're getting much more resiliency in our pastures. And like, when we compare to our neighbors, the amount of forage that we're producing is quite a bit higher than what our neighbors are getting. In a bad year, we probably get a 50% bump over what our neighbors get. In a year like this, where it's droughty, but we're getting these intense rainfalls now, which is kind of the new pattern for Alberta, really intense rain and then longer dry periods. We're probably about 1.5 times what our neighbors are getting. And then if we got a nice even rainfall year, we've had it as high as 3 times what our neighbors get. We've actually been able to do 70 cow-calf pair and 2 bulls on the farm for the entire growing season on 110 acres of grazing land, which is crazy. Like, that's really, really high. Typically, we try and aim for about 40, 45, 50. But that year we had so much grass, we just kept asking for more cows because we couldn't keep up to the grass. Otherwise, like, if it gets too tall, it stops regrowing. So we were just needed more. So it worked really good. So the system works. And so now we're looking into how we can transition all this carbon that we're sequestering into an agricultural commodity.